This is my first attempt at a video with this camera, so let's just see how it goes. You notice they've wrapped the thread twice around this mold, and because I am right-handed, I have the tail of the thread pointing from left to right across the front of the mold. My stitching as I progress from left to right will trap that tail. I stitch in the direction of my dominant hand, which for me is my right hand. That lets me use the fine motor skills with my dominant hand and use my non-dominant hand for tension control and stability. So I'm going to insert the needle from north to south underneath all of the wrapped cords around this mold, including that tail. And as I draw it through, I'm going to secure everything with the thumb of my non-dominant hand as I draw this through, and I'm going to let my non-dominant hand's left index finger sneak across to hold that tail in place. As I draw this through, you'll notice that the working thread is traveling over this loop. Now on the first stitch, I'm going to pull this into a little knot, and that will secure everything on the mold so that I've got a little more stability here, and that's going to hold everything in place. And I'm going to continue repeating that same motion. Needle moves from north to south underneath the base cord, which is what this wrapped element is, and over the working thread. The working thread travels over this loop, and this time, instead of pulling it tight, I'm going to leave a loop. That's the looping stitch. You might call it like a half-hitch knot, but that's basically the same movement that I'll do on everything now. Now my left thumb, my non-dominant thumb, is going to creep over and sit on top of the last stitch made, and I'm going to repeat the motion. The needle moves from north to south, under the base cord, and over the working thread. For the next stitch, my non-dominant hand creeps forward, and I repeat the motion. And now I'm going to repeat this motion, turning the mold and continuing all the way around. You'll notice that, maybe you won't notice because I can't really get far enough away with this camera, that I keep my dominant hand close to the work. Instead of tugging somewhere out here, I'm adjusting the thread by stripping the thread a little at a time and then goosing that stitch into place. And then my non-dominant hand goes over the last stitch made, not only to make it mysterious for you, but to control that last stitch made. And as I work around the end of the mold, I'm back to where I started. This is the knot that I made when I first started, and when I reach this point, instead of going into, or instead of inserting the needle underneath that base cord, what I'll do is I'm going to insert the needle from north to south through the lag of the stitch on the previous row. So let me get that definition here for you. Now we'll call this the stitch, and this is a stitch, this is a stitch, this is the lag between stitches. So I'm going to insert the needle from north to south through the lag of the stitch, traveling over the working thread, and continue working in a continuous spiral. Since I am right-handed, I'm working from left to right, but you can think of it as working from your non-dominant side to your dominant side. and continuing in this vein. Rotating the mold as you go. The mold allows you to visualize the stitches. And of course, I'm trying to look through the viewfinder on the camera as well as at my stitching. This is the basic movement that you'll use for the simplest form of looping called knotless netting. There are many ways to get started, many ways to proceed, but this is a basic movement.